The streets were already dark when the patrol car rolled silently past the old intersections of Wichita, Kansas. The flashing lights were still off, the radio chatter was calm, but the officers inside could already sense that something was brewing. The city was alive in its usual pulse of crime, loneliness, and the little dramas that make up nightly police work. For the men and women in uniform, this was routine, a mixture of adrenaline, discipline, and moral fatigue that comes from constantly seeing people at their weakest moments. One officer, a veteran from Michigan, who came to California through the military before joining the force, reflected that what kept him going wasn't just duty, but the odd sense of brotherhood that formed in the quiet minutes between chaos. His words carried a kind of weary affection. It's a lot of fun. There's always something to do, even in the dull moments. The episode opens with a chase, as so many do. A silver Nissan Xterra speeds away from an attempted traffic stop through an area known for high drug activity. The officer, calm but focused, narrates each movement into the radio, turning westbound on Kellogg Drive, stopping at red lights, pausing to clear intersections. The driver, however, refuses to stop completely. Moments stretch out with sirens off but hearts pounding. When the car finally pulls into a residential driveway, the lights flash and the familiar shouts, "Fill the air. Show me your hands. Walk backwards toward the sound of my voice." The suspect, a middle-aged man with a soft build and tired eyes, raises his hands, insisting he isn't dangerous. "You guys already know who I am," he mutters. But they don't, not yet. The tension melts into a strange kind of civility. The officers cuff him, double-lock the restraints, and even adjust them for comfort when he complains about his bad shoulder. There's small talk, awkward laughter. "You're just healthy, sir," one officer jokes when the man calls himself fat. The suspect, identified as Curtis, admits he panicked. He didn't want his car towed. It wasn't even his car. The officers search the area and quickly find a plastic bag tossed from his window, a white crystalline residue, unmistakably methamphetamine. A field test turns purple. Positive. Another night, another arrest. And yet the tone isn't triumph, but fatigue. Curtis apologizes, confused about what counts as fleeing. The law will decide later, but the moment captures the ambiguity of human behavior, how fear, guilt, and impulse turn a simple stop into a crime. From there, the night moves on to a different kind of encounter, a prostitution sting. In a high-risk area, officers spot a car without headlights, its occupants fidgeting nervously. The man, neatly dressed but sweating, insists he was just helping a woman get something to eat. The officers, trained to read the small lies, question him about condoms found in the car. "Those are mine," he says weakly. The woman, pulled aside and spoken to, gently confesses what everyone already knows. "He was going to pay me $100 for 15 minutes. Her voice trembles, not from guilt, but exhaustion. She's not even surprised. For her, this is routine survival. The officers separate compassion from procedure. She's released with a warning and information about social resources while he's cuffed for solicitation. "Just don't do this again," one of them tells him quietly. The camera captures her face as she nods, half believing, half resigned to the cycle that will bring her back here again. The third sequence takes us back to the murky edge of Broadway Avenue, a corridor of meth and lost souls. A man in a pickup with expired tags is pulled over. He laughs nervously, claiming he's just checking out some girls. But a sharp eye spots a hammer on the floorboard and something else, a glint of plastic, a bag of crystalline powder. The officers find more meth tucked into a cubby, and the man's nervous talk turns to stammering denial. "It's not mine. She had it. The girl I picked up." He claims she was driving, that he was just lonely. He's arrested anyway. The field test again flashes that same purple shade that defines so many of these nights. As they talk, he insists, "I didn't sleep with any of them. Never did." But the officers have heard it all before. The tragedy isn't in the lie, it's in how ordinary it's become. The documentary rhythm of the episode shifts to a new region, Stockton, California, where another officer, 6 years on the job, answers a call about a suspicious man trying to enter a mall. The security guard's voice trembles over the radio. He's checking the doors, says he's gonna get in somehow. When they find the man, Oscar, he's pacing, agitated, muttering about hackers and conspiracies. Meth paranoia, the officers recognize immediately. The confrontation escalates when he resists, shouting incoherently. Tasers, cracked bodies, hit pavement, the familiar cries of confusion and pain. I didn't sleep because of police fill the air. When it's over, Oscar is handcuffed, sweating, mumbling apologies. When was the last time you used meth today, he admits quietly, just walking around lost. His honesty is childlike, almost pure in its disarray. The officers talk softly now, asking about his pipe, explaining the charges resisting arrest possession of methamphetamine. It's another small story in a sea of them, but the exhaustion on their faces tells the larger one meth doesn't just destroy lives, it erodes the sanity of entire cities. Later that same night, another pursuit begins, this time involving a black Mercedes speeding through intersections, ignoring red lights near an elementary school. The driver, a young man named Michael, insists he was only trying to reach his cousin's school, that his transmission was failing. His story is elaborate, inconsistent, but desperate. My car's messed up. I didn't even know you were following me. The officers listen, skeptical but patient. When they tell him he's going to jail, his voice cracks. Please, officer, it won't happen again. It's the same plea repeated in countless episodes, one last attempt to humanize oneself before being taken away. You endangered the lives of a lot of people, the officer replies. You've got to accept the consequences. The camera pans across the dark parking lot, the faint hum of a nearby playground, the surreal image of flashing lights against a school wall. It's a small but potent metaphor, law enforcement and childhood innocence colliding in the same frame. Then comes a quieter but equally tense scene, a routine traffic stop that unravels into a domestic confrontation. A deputy in Central County pulls over a couple, Stephen and Melissa, for stopping over a white line at a red light. What starts as a polite encounter turns into a slow unraveling of lies. The officer smells marijuana, searches the car, and finds a pink sunglasses case containing meth, a pipe, and a straw. Stephen first claims it's his, then denies it, then claims it again. I can't throw my wife under the bus, he says softly. Melissa, when questioned, insists it's his. Both seem to have rehearsed their responses. The officer, calm but firm, reminds them that both are responsible. She has a prior warrant. She's crying by the time they handcuff her. Can I have my water? She asks repeatedly. He can't grant it. Stephen pleads to take the blame, saying he needs to bail her out. Please, man. Let me go get her out. But the deputy has seen too many couples take turns confessing for each other. I see this all the time, he says. Husbands and wives trying to trade guilt, it never works. By the end of the night, the screen fades into the familiar epilogue. Suspects processed drugs, seized cars, impounded. The officers in voiceover speak about why they still do it. We want to be an asset to the community, one says. If we can make society safer for her, for all the young kids growing up, then it's worth it. Yet the irony is thick. The same neighborhoods, the same addictions, the same excuses cycle through every shift. Behind each flashing light is a weary face trying to balance empathy with enforcement. The narrative of these two episodes paints a mosaic of American dysfunction in motion. Methamphetamine is the invisible antagonist, fueling paranoia, desperation, and the decay of trust. The police, portrayed not as heroes, but as overworked caretakers of chaos, perform a grim kind of maintenance, holding back the tide without illusions of victory. Each arrest feels less like justice and more like triage. What stands out isn't the crime itself, but the humanity buried beneath it. The man apologizing for running the woman too tired to lie, the addict begging for water, the officer cracking a joke to mask the weight of empathy. What the camera captures best is the repetition, how each call mirrors the last, how addiction and poverty keep spinning the same story through different faces. The officers know it, the suspects know it, and yet the ritual continues. Sirens commands confessions, handcuffs, paperwork. It's procedural theater, but it's also heartbreak on replay. Watching it unfold, one begins to understand that Cops isn't just about crime. It's about the collapse of small American dreams cars that won't start jobs, that vanished love turned to codependency neighborhoods forgotten by everything except law enforcement. By the final minutes, as another patrol car glides into the distance, the voiceover reminds viewers of the show's famous disclaimer: all suspects are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. But beneath that legal line lies a deeper truth, that guilt and innocence are often blurred in the fog of poverty, addiction, and fear. The officer's drive on the camera follows, and the streets remain unchanged. The meth crystals tested under UV light, the purple stains of confirmation, the resigned looks, all of it forms a rhythm as steady as a heartbeat. In cities like Wichita and Stockton, it never stops. There will always be another Curtis, another Oscar, another Melissa, waiting to be caught between survival and surrender. The night begins with a siren that refuses to scream. The dashboard lights flicker against the glass, painting the interior of the cruiser in blue and red pulses that feel like a heartbeat. The radio murmurs silver Nissan Xterra, possible narcotics. And just like that, the officers are in motion again. Two silhouettes gliding through the arteries of a city that never quite sleeps, chasing ghosts down streets named after fated heroes. The suspect drives casually, at first stopping at red lights, signaling turns, obeying some laws, but ignoring the one that matters most: stop when the police tell you to. When the car finally pulls into a driveway, the calm shatters. Flashlights cut through the dark, commands explode. Show me your hands, walk backwards, get on your knees. The choreography is rehearsed, but always electric. It's part fear, part ritual, part faith that words shouted loud enough might prevent bullets from being fired. Curtis, the driver, is middle-aged, overweight, exhausted. He raises his hands like a man surrendering to fate rather than the law. "You already know who I am," he says. The officer replies, "I have no idea who you are." That exchange, almost poetic, sets the tone for everything that follows. Curtis is not violent, not angry, just scared. He talks about his shoulder, his health, his panic. He says he didn't want the car towed. He didn't even own it. It's all one long circular apology that never quite lands anywhere. When the officer finds a small plastic bag tossed near the curb, the night takes on its inevitable color. The substance glitters faintly in the flashlight's beam white, crystalline pure in its corruption. A simple test turns it purple, the color of guilt in this universe. Curtis stares blankly, still polite. He apologizes again. The officer's voice is steady, but there's no joy in the discovery. It's another file, another arrest, another life, orbiting the same endless cycle of addiction and fear. A change of scenery, another street, another story. This time the lights illuminate a different pair. A man and a woman caught in a car that smells of regret. The woman is dressed for survival, her face painted with fatigue. The man insists he's innocent, that he was just being kind, giving her food, buying her water. The officers, hardened but not cruel, listen without believing. There are condoms on the seat, nervous glances, a choreography they've seen 1,000 times. When questioned separately, she tells the truth with mechanical resignation. He was going to pay me $100 for 15 minutes. No tears, no anger, just the numb pragmatism of someone whose body has long stopped feeling like her own. The man breaks quickly, the lie collapsing under its own weight. Okay, he sighs, I was going to pay her. The scene ends not with violence, but with quiet humiliation. He's arrested. She's offered help. But help is fragile in this world. She'll be back tomorrow, and they all know it. Then comes Broadway, the strip of asphalt that seems to stretch across every American city where poverty, drugs, and loneliness converge. A man drives aimlessly, his tag expired, his mind eroded by methamphetamine. He laughs when the officers pull him over as if caught in a bad dream. He's lived too many times. Just looking at some girls, he says, and it's unclear if he's joking or confessing. When they ask to search his car, he shrugs. The hammer on the floor glints beside a bag of powder. His story changes with every question. It's not mine, it's hers. She was smoking it. But in the weary logic of addiction, truth is irrelevant. Meth has its own theology. It devours identity until guilt and innocence blur into survival. The officers know this. They test the residue, watch it turn purple again, and arrest him with the same mechanical grace. No shouting, no moralizing. They've learned that empathy doesn't stop the cycle, but it helps you sleep at night. In Stockton, the story shifts again. A man named Oscar wanders near a shopping mall, muttering to himself about hackers trying to open locked doors. Security calls it in. The officers arrive, expecting trouble, and trouble obliges. Oscar resists, screaming nonsense as they wrestle him to the ground. "You're gonna get tased," someone shouts. The crackle of electricity splits the air. The body goes limp. The scene is messy, tragic, and painfully human. Later in the patrol car, Oscar sobs. "I didn't sleep because of police," he says. His words are slurred, his thoughts a kaleidoscope of paranoia and guilt. When asked how long ago he used meth, he answers twice today, then a few days ago, because time doesn't mean much when your brain is a storm. The officers treat him gently now. "We'll take you to the hospital first," they tell him. The camera lingers on his trembling hands. You can almost feel the residue of electricity still crawling under his skin. A new chase begins faster, louder. A black Mercedes tears through city streets, running red lights near an elementary school. The officers pursue until safety forces them to stop. When they find the car parked, the driver is still inside, sweating, pleading. He says his car is broken, that the transmission is slipping, that he didn't mean to run. His excuses come out like prayers, each one more desperate than the last. "Please, officer, it won't happen again. My car is messed up." The irony is suffocating. He endangered dozens of lives to avoid a minor traffic stop. He speaks of his aunt, his sick relatives, his broken car, all true perhaps, but irrelevant. The law deals in actions, not intentions. "You've got to accept the consequences," the officer says. The young man nods, crying softly. The camera pans out, revealing the flashing lights reflected in the windows of a nearby classroom. The image is haunting a school meant for children, now lit by the red-blue rhythm of someone else's mistake. And then the quiet domestic tragedy. A husband and wife pulled over for a simple violation, a stop line, crossed, nothing more. The deputy is courteous, almost bored. But then the smell hits him: marijuana. A search follows, methodical and inevitable. Inside the wife's purse, a pink sunglasses case. Inside the case, meth, a straw, a pipe. The kind of discovery that transforms ordinary lives into police reports. What unfolds next is not a confrontation, but a dance of denial and devotion. Stephen, the husband, tries to take the blame. Then he hesitates. "It's mine," he says. "Then maybe it's not mine." His voice trembles under the weight of something deeper than guilt, a desire to protect the woman beside him. Melissa, when questioned, plays the same tune. It's his, she insists. The officer listens, patient but unmoved. He's seen this countless times, couples trying to absorb each other's sins out of love or fear. When Melissa is finally handcuffed, she asks for water. The officer refuses gently. It's procedure. Stephen begs to be let go so he can bail her out. His desperation is pure, almost innocent. "Please, man, she just said it's hers. Let me get her out." But the officer shakes his head. "The system doesn't bend for love. I see this all the time," he says quietly. "Husbands and wives taking turns. It never works." The story closes without resolution because there never is one. The same streets, the same lights, the same cycle. Every face you meet in these episodes is a fragment of something larger, a portrait of a nation wrestling with its own decay. Meth is the invisible antagonist, yes, but poverty, loneliness, and systemic neglect are its co-conspirators. The officers are not heroes here. They are caretakers of entropy. They don't believe they can fix the world, only hold it together for one more night. Their humor is dry, their patience remarkable, their empathy tinged with fatigue. When one of them laughs and tells a suspect, "You're not fat, you're healthy," it's not mockery, it's mercy in disguise. The brilliance of these episodes lies in their repetition. The chases blur together, the excuses repeat like verses in a song. "It's not mine, I panicked, I just wanted to help her." Each scene mirrors the last until the audience begins to sense the real story, the slow erosion of the American soul. The cities change, but the symptoms remain. Isolation, addiction, shame. As dawn approaches, the final shots are quiet. Officers drive back to the station, the radio silent, their faces lit by the cold glow of dashboard screens. There are no speeches about justice, no declarations of victory. Just tired men and women heading home to spouses who listen to their stories to the kind of silence that feels heavier than words. One officer in an earlier interview said his wife helps him decompress after shifts like these. You can imagine him walking through the door, taking off his vest, sitting at the kitchen table in the half-light, and just breathing. What Cops captures in its rawest form is not crime but endurance. The endurance of a country trying to survive its contradictions. Every suspect is both villain and victim. Every officer is both enforcer and counselor. The show's famous opening line, "All suspects are innocent until proven guilty," feels less like a legal disclaimer and more like a prayer whispered into the night. In the end, there are no heroes here, only people caught in motion, running, chasing, falling, standing again. The streets remain the same. The sirens echo the same rhythm. And somewhere out there, another car with expired tags will soon light up under the glow of blue and red.